Iran's supreme leader says the US and Israeli attacks on the country's nuclear facilities failed to achieve their goals, instead hailing the war as a victory for Iran. In his first televised address since a ceasefire ended the war on Monday night, Ayatollah Khamenei says that Iran refused to back down in the face of US and Israeli aggression, and that ultimately the US failed to end the country's nuclear program.
رژیم آمریکا وارد جنگ مستقیم شد چون احساس کرد که اگر وارد نشود رژیم صهیونیستی به کلی نابود خواهد شد. وارد جنگ شد برای اینکه او رو نجات بده. لکن هیچ دستاوردی از این جنگ نداشت.
Intelligence assessments from the US suggest much more extensive damage was done to Iran's nuclear facilities than previously estimated. That's according to CIA Director John Ratcliffe. While initial reports by the US government suggested that Iran's primary uranium enrichment plant, Fordo, had remained largely intact and could be operational again within months. Iran is widely believed to have transported its uranium reserves before the US bombing campaign began, though it's unclear where they were moved to. The Trump administration's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff says that Trump plans to expand the Abraham Accords and add more countries to the normalization agreement with Israel.
One of the president's key objectives is that the Abraham Accords be expanded, that more countries come into it, and we are working on that on my team, and we think we're going to have some pretty big announcements on countries that are now coming into the Abraham Peace Accords.
Witkoff did not mention which countries he was alluding to, but the US has courted Saudi Arabia for years in an attempt to normalize relations between the monarchy and Israel, something Saudi leadership has effectively ruled out. The Abraham Accords was a deal established under Trump's first presidential term between Israel and several Arab countries, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. The agreement received a lot of criticism across the Arab and Muslim world for failing to include any attempt at resolving the Palestinian question or halting the rapidly encroaching attempts by Israel to annex the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. And finally, 15 human rights organizations have called for the suspension of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's activity, warning that the controversial initiative backed by Israel and the US may be complicit in war crimes. The GHF, which began operating in Gaza in late May, was launched following nearly 3 months of complete Israeli blockade on the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. The reality of the GHF's operations led to deadly chaos and dehumanizing scenes of crowds of Palestinians queuing up to receive insufficient aid packages. Israeli forces and mercenary groups manning the GHF distribution points repeatedly fired at Palestinians seeking aid. At least 516 people have been killed at or near the distribution points since the GHF began its operations. Experts in the field criticized the plan from its inception, describing it as a death trap, and have accused Israel of weaponizing aid to the starved population of Gaza.